Hi guys, Justin O'Day here with Adcomm HQ. Today we're going to cover the topic of video distribution, specifically video distribution over component wiring. In today's example, we're going to cover some of the tools and the materials that we need to distribute a DirecTV satellite receiver to multiple monitors. In today's example, we're going to be using some bundled RGB cabling manufactured by Liberty Cable. We're going to go over the typical stripper that you need. In this case, it uses multiple gauge wiring. Just some small specialty tools that we recommend, in this case some electrician scissors, and then your different types of compression tools. Each one of these is a little bit different, but they accomplish the same task. What's important to note about these is they have the capability of crimping the specialty fittings, which in our case is required is the RCA connectors. So we're going to go through step by step on what we need to accomplish this process. So first, let's start at the source. The DirecTV satellite receiver. In this case, this is a standard HD receiver, and what DirecTV has done is made a proprietary cable that you must use to take a 10 pins, then convert that over to the typical 5 RCA connectors. So in our example here, we have the DirecTV box through this connector cable over to our distribution amplifier. You will see that the 5 inputs come into the input side of it, and on the other side we have up to 4 outputs of this particular model of amplifier. Now we have manufactured the cable here, and we're going to go over in just a second on how to terminate this, and from here you would distribute this out to your multi-monitor setup. So let's take a quick look at the wire that's required to make the connection from the distribution amplifier to the monitor itself. In this case, we utilized Liberty Cable's bundled RGB cable. Now RGB cabling, when it first came out, actually required 5 separate wires for the video signal itself. Today modern component just uses the 3, the red, the green, and the blue. Prior to that, when HD was new and they were coming with ways of distribution, you had these 2 extra wires. One was for the horizontal and vertical sync. So with that in mind, since it's only required for video to have these 3, this bundled cable makes it really nice for us to distribute audio at the same time. So what we're going to do is kind of show you a quick step-by-step. When you get a solid bundled wire like this, it comes on a spool, right? In this case we have a 1,000-foot spool here, and it comes in a sealed jacket, not much bigger than an RG11. We would take that scissor that I showed you before, which is the electrician scissors. We want to go ahead and expose the wiring that we have internal of this jacket. Bear with me just one second. Try not to cut my finger at the same time. So we'll go ahead and almost did. So let me get in here real quick. Now once you expose this just for a little bit, there is a pull string in there that we can use to continue the split of the jacket, right? You can wrap that around your finger, wrap it around something. In this case, I'm gonna wrap it around my scissors real quick, if that works. Okay, and then we can pull that jacket back just a little bit further. So while we're doing this, we want to cut off all this slack, or it's just going to give us a headache throughout this entire process of us trying to terminate. So we're going to cut that loose. Let me cut my little pull string here. And you'll see that I have just the 5 wires left exposed here. Now, the neat thing about this is it's pretty much the same as your typical coaxial cable. In this case, this is a 25 gauge wire, and with this specialty stripper you will actually notice that the gauge is labeled right here on the stripper. So we'll go ahead and start with the green wire, for example. We'll open up the stripper, and real close in right here you'll see there's a stop, and that stop is just how far that you push that wire until it hits. We let that close, and we go ahead and spin the stripper like so. You only have to do it a couple times. Pull that loose, and you will notice that it exposes the braids and the stinger. Okay, now working with this is the point where we go ahead and stick the fitting on. So when you're looking at these fittings, obviously you can see that this one is not compressed by the fact that there is a space in the middle. Once it's compressed, this is what the finished product looks like. So When we're working with one of these uncompressed fittings, and this one in particular, there is a little gap right there in the middle. And they allow you to have that gap so you can kind of see when you're inserting your wire that everything is going in straight and smooth. Okay, and you can see it gave me just a little bit of resistance, but then once I pushed in, it kind of snapped in place. And that's really it. At this point, all I need to do is insert this into my crimping tool and a quick compression, and you will see that now I have a completely terminated cable end. So let's do that again one more time just to show you. So again, I'm going to take the stripper, we're going to do it with the correct gauge of wiring, slide that in till it hits the stop, spin that, pull it off. Oop, in this case, the stinger remained covered, easy enough. Pull it with your finger. And you always want to pull these braids back. It's very, very important because you do not want the braids to touch that stinger. If it does, it creates the dead short and you will not see a picture with your video. So let me grab another fitting. And again, we want to see that little eyelet window. Stick our cable in until that stinger's in the middle and just push until we kind of feel it fall into place. So now it's as simple as crimping. If I can get it lined up. Once we do so, once again, another properly terminated end. So rather than going through the whole thing, doing all 5, we have this already pre-terminated right here on our system. So when we take those 5, you can match the color codes of the red, blue, and green. In this case with the RGB cable, we had a white and yellow left over. So we used the white for the left audio and the yellow for the red audio. With this distribution, we can go up to roughly about 180 feet without any video signal loss whatsoever. So now that we've made the connection, you can see we clearly have the picture in multiple locations. And it's really that simple, guys. So once you've terminated and been successful in running all the lines that you need, sometimes you run into a few issues. So let's cover some very basic troubleshooting techniques. We get a lot of feedback based on some very common items that we can cover really quickly. Now with DirecTV in particular, we spoke about their proprietary cable. As you can see, a little bit sensitive because that 10 pin can come loose fairly easy. Highly recommend you take some silicone or liquid adhesive and put a dab at the tip of this as it goes into the box so that it dries and you don't have to worry about someone moving on the shelf, doing anything like that, knocking out the pictures to the television. Now, that is pretty straightforward. They're pre-terminated ends. But when we get over to the cable that we manufactured, we have to be knowledgeable that that fitting may have gone on crooked, the stinger could have been pinched, and how do we determine which one is the culprit? So when we look at this wire and you have the 3 different colors that we use for video, the green one is the one that is really designated for signal. So if there's any damage at all to the green, not making proper connection, you will actually lose your picture altogether. So if we disconnect the green, as you can see, we don't get any picture. So we'll go ahead and reconnect that signal line. So now that we've determined that the green cable is intact and connected by the fact that we just merely have a picture, let's move on to the other 2 cables. Now the red and blue cables are used to bring color balance to the signal. So depending upon which one is damaged or disconnected, you will have a different effect on the screen. And it's pretty easy to indicate which one of the 2 based on the color spectrum you actually see on the television monitor itself. So for example, let's go ahead and disconnect the red, which would give you the same effect as if it was damaged, and you will see it's more of a purplish tint, all right, from the red spectrum. So we'll go ahead and put the red back in. You can see that it's returned the colors to normal. If I was to remove the blue or indicate that it was damaged, you would see that it is more green, again in the blue spectrum. So it's really easy to identify based on those 2 very quick, easy troubleshooting techniques, which one of the ones are damaged. Now, because we're manufacturing our own cables, keep in mind it can be at either end. So if you've got the problem and you see the color, speak from experience, I may have had damaged wire on both sides. So if you connect one, you don't see improvement, yes, normal troubleshooting says to move on, but you might want to check both ends and make sure they're terminated properly. It's really that simple, guys. As you can see, video output of your DirecTV receiver to a distribution amplifier, from there a pre-manufactured cable to each monitor.